I'm here for my final presentation with my 3 audience members in TAP. There's 1, 2, and my 3rd audience is my husband who's filming me. So the social problem I'm going to be discussing today is premarital sex. I remember as a teenager, and maybe some of you can relate, going to my mom with my fingers crossed behind my back, asking her if I can go to this big, huge party. And the first thing she said out of her mouth was, "Are their parents going to be there?" And I knew right off the bat that I wasn't going to be allowed to go. And at that time, I was going to be missing the most important party in my life. Well, that answer, no, was for my protection. So whether this is your first marriage or your second marriage, or if you have marriage in your future or kids that are growing up in this tempting world, I want to share with you the opportunity that you have to experience a pure marriage that is meant to display the same oneness that Christ and God have. And according to the research of the National Campaign to Prevent Teen Pregnancy, a survey showed that among those who have already lost their virginity, 2/3 of them wish that they had waited to have sex. From my own personal experience, being a Christian later in life, I see how God places values in the things that He does for our protection. In my marriage, I personally see things that both of my husband and I brought into our marriage because of premarital sex. And being in the ministry as a youth pastor, we see things that people struggle with daily because of their choices of premarital sex. And also, we work with the youth who have struggles and battles because of premarital sex, and also fight daily temptations that by living in this world, they're just all around it. So only right now, currently, 3% of Americans wait to have sex till marriage to have sex. Partly because the temptation's everywhere, that sex is everywhere and it's just so powerful. And also premarital sex is socially accepted. This causes a person to have wrong belief systems, and this robs the people of joy of having a pure marriage that God intends for every one of His children. I'm going to be discussing with you a little bit about the worldviews, how world views sex as no big deal, which leads people to a trap of premarital sex, then which opens the door for additional sin and temptation in our life that leads us astray from God's protection. And then I will also encourage you guys in practical ways to prevent a situation of premarital sex and hopefully make a decision to wait until marriage. So let me begin with temptations. My main point is that people are having sex because sex is everywhere. Watching a lot of sexual content on TV or listening to sexually explicit music increases the chances of teenagers to have sex at an earlier age. Between the years of 1998 and year 2005, the number of sexual scenes that we see on TV have doubled. On an average, music videos contain about 93 sexual situations per hour. And programs of sexual contact average 4.4 scenes per hour. 1 in 5 children will be approached by a sexual offender, predator online. And the biggest users of online pornography are boys ages 12 to 17. The state of the amount of teenagers that have already have sex in high school are 40% of teenagers in high school have already had sex. And 14% of those have had 4 or more sexual partners. So the temptations bring me to my second point, which is God's call to purity is for our own protection. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention reports that 19 million new cases of STDs are occurring every single year. And over half of those new cases are from ages 15 to 24 years old. And more than half of the young people who are sexually active will contract an STD. According to a study done by the Abstinence and Marriage Partnership, abstinence is the only 100% guarantee to prevent any teenage pregnancy or be free from any sexually transmitted diseases. According to a study done by the Arizona Journal of Preventive Medicine, sex and drug behavior predicted an increased likelihood of depression. In fact, they did recommend that girls who are engaging in sexual relationships, that they actually be screened for depression because it's so predominant in that. For women under the age of 30 years old in the United States today, more than the babies that they are having are born out of wedlock. And at this point, 1 out of every 4 children in the United States are being born into a single home. Men and women are having a hard time relating to each other more than ever. And in the book, in the Bible, we read in Romans 1:25 through 28 that there are consequences to falling into the lies of the temptation. Open doors to sin and lust, multiple partners, unwanted pregnancy, STDs, and also soul ties. So God's plan for marriage is to have the life as Adam and Eve had it in the garden. They were free and they had direct contact to God. But premarital sex opens that door for sin, where they felt naked and they had insecure and negative thinking. So by having sex before marriage, that's what you open the doors to. My final point is there is hope. You can beat the temptation. Whether you are single or have already been married, you can still repent and make the choice to accept the gift God has for you by remaining pure. You can fight off the temptation by placing boundaries in your relationships. Double date with other couples. Do not put yourself in positions of temptation. Only date people with the same convictions or respects your decision of purity. Find accountability partners or have a short engagement. So to conclude, we see that all sexual temptations in the world today that draw people to premarital sex. With the predominance of sexual activity, it sends message to fall into that premarital sex. But God has other plans for you, and He has a marriage that can be free from all that. So despite the fact that society thinks sex is socially accepted, or how strong the temptations are, establish accountability partners. If you have children, talk to them about sex and the temptations. If you plan on getting married or been divorced or would like to get married again, or you've even had premarital sex in the past, there is still hope to make that decision. And there's ways for you to be successful at making that choice. Thank you.